Hi there, it's Ron Rogers, and I want to tell you about an interesting encounter and confusion that I had with the maintenance shop that's doing work on my Cessna Turbo 310R. And it has to do with confusion over Cessna Twin known icing certification. Now, I think a number of you probably know that I was involved in this back in the early 80s when I worked for Cessna Flight Test. But this whole thing came about when we're dealing with, the whole thing with the vacuum pumps and the one of the lead mechanics there, the son of the owner who's going to take it over eventually, said that well, it doesn't matter because you can't fly any Cessna Twin in known icing conditions. And I go, what do you mean? They're certified for known icing. And he says, no, I got this AD here and I want to show it to you. And ADs can be very interesting and very difficult to read. Now, I was involved in a lot of certification for like the last 4 decades. I was involved in icing certification at Cessna Flight Test. I've been involved with commercial certification issues, and mostly when I was chairman, and they changed the title to director of the new Aircraft Evaluation Certification Committee, Airworthiness, Performance, and Evaluation Committee, and it went through a lot of different names. But anyway, I've been involved in this for a long time, and I was asked by the FAA to head up the committee known as SAE, Society of Aerospace Engineers, although it starts out really automotive, but the SAE AE4R Data Accuracy Panel. And what we did was we set the certification standards for fly-by-wire aircraft. This was a 10-year process. I had people on my committee from all over the world, so we had language issues. We had people from other regulatory places, and just a lot of politics going back and forth, sometimes even language issues and stuff like that. And you're trying to write you're trying to write an advisory circular or an FAR on how do you certify these aircraft. And of course it gets to be very interesting, and you never can unfortunately completely cover a certification environment, and that has to do a little bit with icing too, which is why I'm somewhat hesitant on flying even with an aircraft with known icing. But anyway, we spent 10 years doing this, and it's just amazing how long it takes to put these things together and to agree on regulations. And of course, I think everybody disagreed on everything, so we had a level there that allowed us to continue. It's like you got a good contract if nobody's really happy. So anyway, I did that, and that was quite an adventure. But let's get back to this advisory, this airworthiness directive, that came out. And they were showing me the little part here, and I got it highlighted, and it says, for certain Cessna Aircraft Company models, and it's the 310 in that. Well, okay, the word on how do you read the language certain aircraft models? And you start reading down the AD, and these things are difficult to write, and they assume a certain knowledge there that you have a kind of maybe a better understanding. And somebody who just picks this thing up and reads it, not necessarily knows the full story about this. And of course, there is a very interesting history on how the whole thing about certifying civilian aircraft came about and got developed. And that's one reason I went from my Cessna 310Q model to the R model. Now, you got to start reading more into the advisory circular, and it starts to explain it when you get down into the comments section there. And they came out with a thing there, and that Deborah Hersman agreed that pilots of airplanes that have not been certified for flight in known icing conditions may not realize that even with de-ice boots and other similar equipment, the airplanes are not certified for flight into known icing. Well, yes, I had my Q model of 310 that had boots. It had hot props, and it had an alcohol windshield. So you think, well, okay, that can fly in an icing. Well, the thing was, back in, when they started building these airplanes, people were going, yeah, icing can be a problem. So maybe we should put boots on, and okay, well, it can get ice on the props. So maybe we should put it on the props too, Okay, well, that went along nicely. And, but they were never really certified for flight in known icing. That was a FAR Part 25 thing, and not, a Part 21 thing. And here it talks about the term for known icing came into being about the mid-70s, when some aircraft certification rules and criteria to install icing equipment on airplanes were changed. So in early applications, the manufacturers installed what is commonly referred to as a no-hazard system. And they're not been required to, to specify that the airplanes could fly into known icing conditions. There's another little cute thing here that the feds say, and it's in the bottom there, that if you take all precautions and you get into icing problems, that's okay. We're not going to come after you. Yeah, is this the feds I'm familiar with? Well, anyway, AOPA came out and nicely clarified it that doesn't affect aircraft that are certified for flight into known icing conditions. And on the advisory circular in the comments, with you read down many pages into it, they said that flight in potential icing conditions, visible moisture such as clouds at freezing temperatures, as well as forecast icing, are not prohibited as long as there are no relevant pileups. If applicable airplane encounters icing in an area with no prior reported icing, the pilot takes precautions to minimize the encounter and follows an exit strategy that had been planned pre-flight. He's not going to get into trouble. Well, back when I worked for Cessna, we had a little tanker here that we use to spray water, and then we'd fly the test aircraft behind it to see the effects of icing. Of course, water droplets can vary all over the place, and the icing environment does not cover all potentials like the electromagnetic environment. Lightning environment doesn't. But this started out with the 421, which they wanted to certify into known icing. And that was kind of the first program in the late 70s. I was working for Cessna Flight Test in the early 80s. And, by then the programs had been developed, and the marketing people says, yeah, we're doing Part 25 type certification. Well, that was the only basis they had to even figure out what to do, so that was kind of the basis, and, how marketing people can be. And there's my Q model. Now, hey, I got boots, hot props, alcohol windshield. Well, that they found out that's not good enough, and it has a lot of little things that need to be, let's say, corrected to allow it to be flown into known icing conditions. And I've got a closer pickup here, but okay, you get icing, and I got inadvertent icing with this, and I could inflate the boots, get rid of it, but there are certain things that could cause problems. Like, let's look at the vertical stabilizer here. It does not have a boot. Well, you can get ice on that, and that can cause you problems. So, okay, that doesn't pass mustard. So, even though I've got on the horizontal stabilizer boots, I don't have it on the rudder, so that's just not good enough. Like I said, at the time, they're trying to figure out, well, what can we do? We don't really have a certification basis for that. So they were doing things like that. Now, like I said, just because you have an aircraft with boots, and you guys probably remember the Roselawn incident there, and I have a video on that they encountered water droplet sizes that were outside of the certification environment, and that caused a lot of problems, obviously, the accident. So that's why I don't get excited about flying my Turbo 310R certified for flight in a known icing condition, because icing can do a number on you. But they wanted to have a ability to sell the aircraft, your light aircraft, and say, hey, okay, we can fly this thing into known icing. But, okay, be that as it may, what do I have on my Cessna 310 that allows me to fly into icing conditions? All right, so there's the lovely 310, and of course the issue I'm talking about is certified into known icing. And what's it take to be certified into known icing for an aircraft like this and any of the Cessna Twins? Well, it takes two very important things. First of all, it has to be in the specified serial number chain. So if your aircraft doesn't have its serial number listed as being certified for known icing, you're not good. Okay, the other aspect is it has to have the required equipment. So this came from Arizona, and it had the boots. I had to redo all of the airplane going by, redo all of the hoses. They were all dry rot. It's got the hot props here, and something that my Q model didn't have, it's got the inboard boots, and it has a hot plate. Alcohol windshield does not suffice. And of course it has the horizontal stabilizer. My Q model had that, but it's got the rudder with a boot. My Q model didn't have that. So back in the 70s, well, 50s on through, before Part 25 or Part 21 was adjusted, you know, they stole stuff from Part 25 to say, hey, okay, we're going to make this thing known ice. They didn't really know what they had or what they needed to do or what they were going to do. So they started working on it and got these aircraft certified for known icing. And some of the earlier 310s, especially the earlier models, are not certified for known icing. They don't have the boots, the hot windshield. Of course, you got to have the heated pitot-static system. There's the VET. Heated pitot-static system. So basically, those are the requirements, and of course it has to have the serial number. And if you say, hey, I want to make my aircraft for known icing, I've got a 310, but the serial number isn't listed, you're no good, because now what you essentially have to do, you guys a little loose there, interesting, oops, what you essentially have to do is, cute. What you essentially have to do is to do your own known icing certification program, and that is not something any individual wants to tackle. So you best just buy one that is certified for it, and then you are good to go. That's cute. Anyway, that's the thing on certification for known icing. And of course, here is the continued issue about the vacuum pumps, and I bought, or they bought, the shop bought the cooling kit, which came in, and they're going to install that. These are the hoses and stuff for the boots and that, and they'll put that in and we'll go from there. All right, thanks for watching. So that's the story and the history of Part 21 aircraft certification into known icing. They tried a few patches initially, thought, we'll throw some stuff on, but then they said, you know, we gotta get serious with this, and they developed a test program. They certified them for known icing, and now, okay, you can still encounter icing that exceeds the capability of even transport aircraft, so you have to be careful. It can help get you out of a tough situation, but you shouldn't say, no, I got a forecast of moderate icing, heavy rain, you know, freezing rain, I'm going to go. No. You're going to get yourself into a world of hurt. Even with the airlines, we had restrictions against flying in freezing rain and things like that. You got to be careful. You got to use common sense. But anyway, that's the history. And one thing I didn't mention, they throw on little extra things like 100 amp alternators and stuff like that, which mine has, and they never even get close to the capacity, but I digress. Anyway, that is the story. I hope you found it interesting, and if any mechanic tells you that your twin Cessna can't fly into known icing, if you've got the certification for it and you're the correct serial number and you have all the operating equipment, you're good for it. Now, when I bought this, the heated windshield was removed because it was defective. The controller overheated it, and I have a nice warped $14,000 heated windshield that's fairly worthless. So I had to buy a new one, put it on, and now that I met all the requirements, my airplane is known, or is certified now, meets the standards for flight into known icing, although that's still something I avoid because that's just kind of a smart thing to do. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you found it interesting.